Welcome back to the Sovereign Ratio. Whether you've been in altcoins and enjoyed this wonderful pump that we've had over the last couple of weeks, or if you're not in yet and still looking to get that entry to get into the next bull market, the one thing that comes out of this that's fantastic is the ability to assess where narratives lie and where the best decisions for altcoin purchases lie. Today, we're going to use crypto bubbles and get a broad view of that in nice, easy format to look at the altcoins that are most likely going to be the biggest impacts in the next bull market based off of their performance in the last month or so. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and leave me a comment below. Okay, so let's start pretty easy here. What I have, this is Crypto Bubbles. It's cryptobubbles.net if you're interested in checking it out. Essentially what it does is it puts altcoin and Bitcoin performance in easy to read format. Obviously, the bigger the bubble, the bigger the movement for that particular coin on the time frame it's on. Right now, what I have is the yearly time frame and also versus the US dollar. You can also change it to be versus Bitcoin if you're interested in altcoin Bitcoin pairs. But for the purpose of this right now, I'm just looking at US dollar. So starting out very simply here on the year, this is the top 100 coins in crypto on yearly performance. And it's very easy to see some narratives that have been playing out, or at least some specific coins that have performed incredibly well just in the last year, even during this horrific bear market that we've been in. Number one, right off the bat, is Caspa. Proof of work is a narrative that's had some criticism behind it because of its energy usage. But proof of work, in my opinion, is also one of the most secure forms of consensus mechanisms. Caspa has an incredible narrative behind it, an incredible community, and a lot of people that support the project. And that's very evident in the fact that it's done a 13x this year. And it actually has done more than that. This is just current dollars. Caspa's pulled back quite a bit since then. So it was probably more like a 20x or something to that effect. Second token on here is Injective Protocol on the bottom right-hand side. Injective is in the decentralized finance realm, and its performance has been exceptional as well. It was up, I think, close to $20. It's pulled back some, so that 937%, it was probably like actually a 12x, probably like a 1200%. So that is definitely something to consider for the next, year and a half, 2 years as we continue, and actually as we begin the bull run. Not necessarily, I don't really think the bull run is completely started yet. I think we've got another pullback before we get into that hope phase. Another one here is Render Token. Render Token is going to be a narrative. It's in the gaming space. It's in gaming infrastructure. It's going to be one of those ones that really performs well. And I also think that other gaming coins are going to perform really well, as we're going to see here in a little bit with all of those that have actually run in the last month or so. Some incredible 5 and 6x's on gaming projects. Superfarm is one that we'll look at later that's done just an incredible rip in the last few days. Also going along with Render as an infrastructure, think of Render as NVIDIA. Render is basically the NVIDIA of the crypto space. And then we have IMX over to the left. It's done 193% gain. That goes right along with Render, as that is a gaming infrastructure play. We're going to ignore FTT for now because I just don't want to go into that. I would not recommend. I'm not going to make any recommendations, but I'm personally not going to be investing anything into FTT. I can assure you of that. However, just below that, Solana and Graph are right next to each other. Those are both very solid projects. Solana's had its share of troubles in the past with network outages, but the fact of the matter is we're basically taking bets on stories right now. And that's what everybody's doing. And a lot of people believe in the story of Solana and its transaction speed and some of the technologies that it's bringing, as well as the developer activity on Solana. As a layer one solution, whether it lasts another 10 years or not, I don't know. But what I know is there's enough people that believe in it and enough venture capitalists investing into it to where you might as well take advantage of the pumps when they come. So I do think that'll be a big contender in the next bull run. And again, right next to it, the graph. The graph I've done an entire video on before. So if you're interested in the graph, I would recommend going back in my history and checking out the video on that, where I go into a lot greater detail. But the graph is an API producing token. It's in the artificial intelligence kind of realm. It tends to run when AI tokens run, but it's done 125% this year, which is fantastic. And that's pretty much exactly what Bitcoin has done. So the graph to this point has kept up with Bitcoin pretty well, which is fantastic. Just below that, we have Stacks. Stacks is a scaling solution for Bitcoin, and it has historically run when Bitcoin has run. I would imagine Stacks would be an interesting play for the bull run in the fact that Bitcoin typically runs first before anything else does. So having like being a little bit heavy on stacks in the altcoin portfolio at the beginning of the bull run might be great, especially if it runs with Bitcoin, and then that money can immediately be turned around and put into other altcoins. But that is a scaling solution for Bitcoin, and it has a hot narrative behind it. Next to that is my absolute favorite altcoin, and I don't think it's going to be the biggest return in the next bull run, but I do think it's going to be very significant, and that is Chainlink. Chainlink is an infrastructure coin that connects blockchains together and does a lot of various things. I've made a whole video on this coin before. Again, I would recommend going back and looking at that. If I could personally only hold one altcoin from a risk to reward standpoint, it would be Chainlink, 100%. It wouldn't even be Ethereum. It would absolutely be Chainlink. Next to that, we have WeMix, which I'm actually not sure what that is, to be honest with you. It looks like it has something to do with Web3 audio or perhaps music, but it has done almost a 4x in this bear market. So definitely not something to be discounted. Maybe I'll do a video on WeMix just so I can figure out what it is and present that information out there. Next to that is Rune. Rune is the token of a decentralized token swapping protocol called Thorchain. Rune is the token, and Rune has this knack of really accelerating hard whenever the market starts to move. Actually, let me move my camera here so we can see that. There's Rune on the bottom left. You can see it's done a 340% since the last year, and most of that was actually in the last month or so, and I think it actually did more like a 600%, but it's retraced some. So Rune is definitely one to look out for. Bring the camera back. And Bitcoin is there as well on the left-hand side. Obviously, Bitcoin has done 122%. Can't discount Bitcoin, especially with the upcoming and anticipated ETF approvals. On the top left there's another one, Lido DAO. I'm not personally going to be investing in that, but I know some people that have strong conviction in Lido. Might be something to check out for you. I'm not going to go into detail about it because it's not something that I'm going to have in my portfolio, but it is a decent selection from what I understand, and there's a lot of belief in it. So switching to the top 200, I think some additional tokens are going to be seen in already established narratives. So just looking at this screen, we have Ronin, RON. That is another gaming token. It's done a almost 4x. Probably it's already done over a 4x, but has retraced a little bit since the year started. And then on the bottom, actually to the bottom left of that, there's Magic. You can kind of see it behind the camera there. Magic is another gaming play that's done a 2x this year. And then right below that, we have another one in the AI space, that is Fetch AI. It's in that group of tokens with Ajax, which is again up on the top right there. Both have done a 6 and 7x respectively in the last year. Fetch and Ajax are both in the AI space, so it's pretty clear to see that AI is an area of interest. And there are a lot of microcap coins that you could also research in the AI space that would have a much higher risk to reward ratio. So if you're interested in maybe gambling a little bit on some of those, they could have huge returns, but Fetch AI and Ajax, which is Singularity, are the two in the top 200 here. On the bottom right, there's another token of note, which is Kujira. Kujira is a new layer 1 that I've heard a lot about. I personally have not done a lot of research into it. I might consider doing a separate video on it because from what I understand, it does have some stark differences between other layer 1s and is relatively innovative. And there's a strong community behind it as well. To the top left of that, there's ILV, which is Illuvium, which is again in the gaming space. It's one of the nicest looking projects and it has a lot of belief behind it. I know some people that hate Illuvium and I know some people that absolutely love Illuvium. For me, the narrative behind it is based off the price. It says 179% right now, but it's actually done significantly more than that. It's just had some retracements. Illuvium is a great project to look at for the next cycle as well. To the left of that, there's Storage at 124%. That is a file storage play. It's kind of like Arweave and Filecoin. Each one has its own little niches, but I've stated in the past, I think file storage and utility tokens are going to be huge in this next run, along with gaming tokens. Those are my two main things that I'm looking at, with some other, with some AI thrown in there and some decentralized finance in there. But my portfolio will be very heavy utility tokens and very heavy gaming tokens with some AI. And then on the top left, you can see there's Floki Inu, which is just a meme coin, has no use case whatsoever, but we know how people feel about meme coins. Just getting rid of the camera real quick. There's another one there, it's Ocean Protocol. That's also in the data space. It's kind of in the same group as AI, kind of in the same group as utility tokens, but Ocean Protocol in the data space for me is another good play, and it is part of my portfolio, as I have stated in previous videos. Now what I've done here at this, we've gone back to the top 100, and now I've pulled up by the month time frame instead of the year time frame. This is the activity that's happened recently with all of the altcoin pumps that we've been seeing across the market. To note here, Caspa is again on here because it's been a major pumper in the last month or so. FTT, again, we're going to ignore that. I don't see that really going anywhere. I could be wrong. On the bottom, there's one to note that's very important, which is Tau. I will probably do a separate video on Tau, but it is one that you absolutely want in your portfolio, and I will explain why whenever I make that video. But that is a fantastic coin that everybody needs to be looking at. And you can see by its monthly performance at 220%. I'll take off the camera again, and you can see on the bottom left, Rune is still there, Wemix is still there, and Avalanche is up 85% in the last month, whereas on the yearly that we just looked at, it was up about 50%. There's a strong narrative behind AVAX right now, but I'm not sure if that's product driven or if that's the fact that people like Alex Becker and some other YouTubers have been shilling AVAX. It's more related to the gaming space than it actually is anything else. It's very closely related to that. There's a lot of gaming projects on AVAX. So there's a potential that along with all the other gaming tokens that have run, that it could be a strong contender in this next run up. And then on the top left, there's Blur, which is an NFT play. It's seen some strong movement. I'm not completely sold on Blur, but if you're interested in the NFT space, that is one to check out for sure. And then also Cake Token, which it's behind my camera, but Cake Token is the official token of PancakeSwap. And as Binance hopefully makes a recovery after all of its recent news and stuff like paying the US Securities and Exchange Commission $4 billion in fines and CZ stepping down, as people start to use Binance more, hopefully that Cake token will continue to rise. Again, not something I'm going to invest in, but it is there. And then a couple others to note on the top left to support the gaming narrative. You've got Axie Infinity and you've got Decentraland, AXS and Mana. Again, those have pumped somewhat okay in the last month. And as part of the gaming narrative, I can imagine they'll provide returns. Not in my portfolio, but if you want a safer gaming token, then maybe those two are there. I don't particularly think either of the games are good in any way. But again, we're buying narratives, we're not buying products. And then on the top right, one more to point out is Near Protocol. It's only at 41%, but Near is a layer one solution that has not seen a true bull run really since it came out. So that is an interesting prospect as well. You do some research into Near. There's a lot of people that believe in that project as well. And finally, it's on the bottom right, and you can't see it right now, but it is Oasis Protocol, which is the token is Rose. Again, that's another layer one solution. I'm not sure what the details are on that one. Haven't done a ton of research into it, but I wanted to point out that a lot of people do believe in Oasis Protocol as well. Token Rose. Okay, and this might be my favorite page out of the 4 that I'm going to show today. This is the top 200 on the month, and there are some really interesting things here that didn't show up in the last 3 pages. First, I want to talk about the top left. That token Prime, it's called Echelon Prime. It is in the gaming space, and it has a massive community behind it and a lot of people that believe it's the best token for this run. So I absolutely do not want to discount that token, and it is going to be in my portfolio. And I would highly recommend that other people look at it as well. Not financial advice, but that is, if the narrative behind that token supports what price is going to do, I definitely have to have it in my portfolio. And again, another one that's interesting is on the right side of the page. It's Ordi, which is Bitcoin ordinals, which have just been going absolutely crazy lately. Ordinals is something I did a video on earlier in the year. If you're interested in learning about Bitcoin ordinals, which is essentially an NFT on a Satoshi of a Bitcoin, that video is out there for you to look at. Just go back in my history and you'll find that. And then again, Illuvium shows up here. And then on the bottom right, there's another token, which is Beam. Beam is formerly Merit Circle, which is another gaming token. In case you haven't noticed yet, there's a lot of gaming interest. Beam is down there. It actually was, the token used to be MC, and just a week or 2 ago, it switched over to Beam, and there was a 1-to-40 split for anyone that held Merit Circle. They ended up getting Beam, and Beam is another one of those. It's like Prime. It has a massive following behind it. Again, it's something that you probably maybe put a very small percentage of your, maybe 1% of your portfolio into Beam. But I think it's important if it's one of those ones that does like a 50x or something like that. I think it's important to have in your portfolio, especially with just a small investment of like 1% of your total portfolio. And since I do live in the United States, the final thing I'm going to show today is the Coinbase Monthly timeframe. Again, we see Echelon Prime on the top left. We see AIOZ on the right at 600%. I'm not actually sure what that is. I'll have to check that out. We'll click on it real quick. What's it actually called? It's called AIOZ Network. Sounds like a layer 1 because it says network, but I'm not 100% sure. I actually don't know a lot about that token, but want to point it out. It has done 600% in the last month, which is insane. We see some more familiar faces, Illuvium, IMX, all of that, Solana, Storage, all those. But one I want to point out right here, which you can just barely see, it's right here. It's Superverse. Superverse is currently showing a 297% gain for the month, but it was actually significantly more than that. It's just had a sharp retracement because it spiked up in like 24 hours. It did like a 4x or something like that. Absolutely insane gains in a quick amount of time. So congratulations if any of you out there were in Superverse and went ahead and took advantage of maybe selling some of that. But there's a lot of tokens here. Here's another one in the gaming space, Gods Unchained. Again, supporting the gaming narrative. Badger DAO, which is actually closely related to Bitcoin. I've heard some rumblings about Badger. It's not probably going to be in my portfolio, but I want to point that out that Badger might be something if Bitcoin really starts going nuts. Badger might be something that goes along with that. So with Bitcoin potentially getting ready to set up for a larger correction, not really sure yet. We have to monitor and see what happens with that, but it has seen a significant drop in the last 24 hours. With that correction potentially incoming, I think now is the time to plan if you're not in the market with those altcoins, or if you're just looking to put a little bit more in. You know, if Bitcoin doesn't do a 30% correction here, like it does most often several times in a bull market, you could see altcoins go down 50, 60%. And if they do, well, you couldn't ask for a better buying opportunity than that. I would say probably over the next 4 or 5 months, I'm going to look for major dips, maybe 1 or 2 major dips, and go 50% in, or whatever remaining dry powder I have. Just kind of spread out over those big dips that are incoming, and then I just ride it up till September 2025. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. This is going to be where people's lives change, and this might be one of the last life-changing opportunities that people have. I'm not providing financial advice, but I think anybody that doesn't get into crypto in the next few months is going to eventually regret it very much. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave me a comment below. Let me know what your favorite altcoins are. Let me know if you think Bitcoin's going to correct here pretty significantly, maybe a 30% drop, or if you think it's going to run up to 42,000 first. Thank you for coming by, and safe trading.